Good evening. I'm going to invite you to think with me a little bit about co-working and co-working spaces. As many of you know, co-working spaces offer on-demand desk space for independent freelance workers, but there's so much more than that to it. So, co-working spaces are one of the places that the gig economy happens. They're all over the place, including right here, a few blocks down on Main Street, Collab Urbana, Collider Urbana, over in Champaign, the Logic Everyday Community, and others. Around the world, there's tens of thousands of workplaces that call themselves co-working spaces, and they're all quite different. There's big, shiny corporate ones and eclectic neighborhood ones. People co-work around kitchen tables, and there's a sailboat in the Mediterranean that's a co-working space. So, with so many examples, inquiring minds want to know, what is co-working? What is it? What should we think about it? How do we understand it? And for the past couple of years, I've been studying this with the result of a book. What I'm not going to tell you tonight is the one right way to do co-working or run a co-working space. There's lots of different ways to do it. What I am going to do is tell you some things that I think are really interesting, and I hope you'll find are interesting about co-working. For me, the critical thing about co-working is it's more than cheap office space. It's about community. A co-working space is a place where freelance workers find a face-to-face community of like-minded workers. You might say that this is a physical realization of a digital social network. Now, this is extremely important for independent workers who would otherwise work at home or in a cafe alone. They find a community of actual humans to work with. This has been described as a respite from our isolation by Zachary Klaus in his paper. So the benefits of co-working may include co-working makes co-workers happy, at least some workers some of the time. Co-working is said to improve the work and careers of co-workers. There's a lot more to be said about this, but not tonight. Co-working environments are generally non-hierarchical, but most of them are created and sustained by community leaders, and there's now a professional cadre of community leaders whose jobs combine office manager, HR manager, event planner, therapist, all kinds of roles wrapped up in a single new kind of job. So for the past few years, I've been trying to understand co-working spaces, and the future of work, and I find there's a lot of different ways to look at it, and each perspective gives us some insight. But so tonight, I was going to look at one perspective. Let's view co-working as a form of participatory theater. The asterisk there indicates that this kind of dramaturgical interpretation has been around in social theory for a long time. So let's unwrap this a little bit. The essence of this idea is the workspace itself is a stage where a play is being played out. The workers are invited to enact the role of a co-worker in a story about the future of work. And like improv theater, the workers make up the story through their own interactions. If co-working space is a stage, then we know that the stage is important, but it's not the whole play. So you can set the same play in different stagings, and you can use the same staging for different plays. So the space is important, but it's not the whole story. The workers are asked to enact a role, and so this means that the players together, the workers, are co-creating this community that they're doing. Each one has to learn their role and act it out, and the story is unique to a particular set of workers because they're created as they go along. It's interesting to think about community leaders because they have a role similar to the director of improv. They set the scenario and they elicit actions and by living out the story, and they convene events and make introductions and things like that to move the story along. So if this is a play, if this is a stage, what's the play? Well, one place to look would be the Coworking Manifesto, which has been on the web for a long time. It says things like, coworking is redefining the way we work, and it's creating an economy of innovation and creativity in our communities and globally. There's a lot of variations of this around here. Communities, some of them are considered those freelancers who are banding together to help each other. Some are business entrepreneurs who are banding together to disrupt the universe. Some of them are social entrepreneurs banding together to improve the world, or combinations and mixtures of these things. But I would observe that in all of these cases, this is an epic narrative about the future of work, and workers have an important and perhaps heroic role in this story. And the thing is, workers can choose what story to be a part of and what play to play. So the bottom line is, we, the workers, get to write our own story. And this is one of the cool things about contemporary co-working, and I think it's one of the things that makes co-workers happy. In fact, I'm sure it's one of the things that makes co-workers happy. So, what is co-working? It is an opportunity to co-create and act out your own vision of the future of work. No wonder it's catching on. Thank you.